We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And we're back with Tim Donner, longtime host of this here Liberty Nation radio show and political analyst for LibertyNation.com, discussing the Mar-a-Lago raid, its unprecedentedness, and all things in between. So, Tim, for every political action, there appears to be an outsized political reaction. How does the raid on Trump's Florida residence, how does that play out for the 45th president politically?
Well, this is really a tangled web, because this move may actually assure Trump the nomination because he's the aggrieved party. And even people on the Republican side who were very skeptical about whether he should run again because of January 6th and the end times of his presidency, even they are saying, well, now I guess we really have to support him because this becomes a matter of principle. So this may assure him the nomination. It might mean that Ron DeSantis and Ted Cruz and others who had designs on the 2024 nomination are going to be pushed down a peg. But maybe they're pushed up a peg when we find out what this was all about. Maybe it makes Trump less electable as opposed to more electable. My sense is, though, Mark, to be totally honest with you, it gives him a much greater chance of the nomination. But it doesn't give him any better chance at winning the election, because the cumulative effect of this January 6th hearing and now this raid, there's a sense that Trump is just involved in all kinds of illegalities. And so for the general election, I don't think that this helps him at all. For the Republican nomination, I think it clearly does.
Yeah,
you can see already, though, that the backlash, just most recently, the two primaries that were held since the raid in Wisconsin and Connecticut, the Trump candidates did better than expected.
Yeah.
And so there's a definite backlash. The question is, how long will it last and what effect will it take?
The actions of the FBI, they certainly seem to have fired up Trump's base. And as you pointed out earlier, even people like former Governor Andrew Cuomo, they're decrying the optics. So to bring us back to what you left off the last segment with, is Trump becoming seen as a martyr towards the very things that he decried when he first ran for president?
Well, basically, the raid on Mar-a-Lago validated all the claims that Trump has been making, that he's a subject of political persecution, uniquely so, because, of course, Republican presidents back to Nixon, Reagan, Bush were all despised by the left. But this takes it to an entirely different level. So absolutely, it makes him a martyr. I mean, there's no question about it. That was my first reaction when I heard about it. I said, okay, Trump's going to become a martyr. So, you know, the left has the Department of Justice, Merrick Garland, the White House, wherever you want to put the responsibility for this raid, they're unwittingly propping him up, which begs the question of whether the left really wants Trump to run or not, because you could make a case for both. They want him in because they believe January 6th and the rest means he can't possibly be elected and would be an easy mark. Or do they want him out, which their actions would suggest? But that would clear the way for a guy like Ron DeSantis, who carries the Trump message and policies without the baggage of his personality. So I think do they want him in or do they want him out? This makes it far more likely that he's going to be in and will win the nomination.
Coming back to the Julius Caesar reference that you made about crossing the Rubicon earlier. Now, you asked the Liberty Nation team the other day, you asked to consider whether the country could ever be reunited after this event.
Yes, and I think both sides are presenting it that way. I mean, and even on the left, you're saying this has never happened before. Wow. And on the right, of course, there's widespread outrage. I think the question to be asked on whether we can come together again as a country is, will the center hold? That's usually the question about political stability. Can the center hold? And the most extreme voices, frankly, on both sides are now the loudest, are carrying the day to the greatest extent. So will those millions upon millions of Americans who are not wedded to either left or right-wing ideology, will they be able to hold at a place of responsibility while all the confusion and the finger pointing and the dangerous actions of the extremists take hold? Nobody knows whether we can reunite again, but when we've got people talking about this is the first shot in a civil war, we've got people on the right who are saying, sleep well. One guy tweeted out, sleep well, tomorrow we go to war. So there's a lot of really dangerous, inflammatory rhetoric flying back and forth. You hope that cooler heads can prevail, but we know that this president, who is in a position to tamp down the rebellion, is utterly unable to do that. He's still at 30% popularity. He can't do it. It doesn't seem that anybody can. I guess we can only hope that a next president can somehow consolidate all this, because I don't see it happening in the next 2 years at least. And it would be very optimistic to say that we can become reunited as we did after 9/11 ever again without a tragedy.
Well, as you say about the center holding, it reminds me of the W.B. Yeats poem, The Second Coming, where he says the center cannot hold.
Yes.
Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world.
Yes.
And I think that's a great place to leave it. Tim Donner, thanks ever so much.
Always a pleasure, Mark.
You're listening to Liberty Nation Radio, heard across the Radio America network from our flagship station in the nation's capital, WWRC in Washington, D.C. Remember, you can tune in for a Liberty Nation from 2 to 3 p.m. Sunday on KBKW 103.5 FM, 1450 AM, the talk of Grays Harbor. Coming up later, we discuss the legal ramifications of serving a warrant on a former president. Don't go anywhere. We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
We're doing it for real, really real. Liberty Nation.
And Jeff Charles, contributor for LibertyNation.com.
I think we're starting to make an impact. Liberty style, fighting for freedom.
Maybe tracking polls sponsored by Liberty Nation for Thursday.
Mentioned by Dan Bongino, Rasmussen, Jordan Peterson, and
I
others.
can do it again if you want me to.
Cited in Mark Levin's American Marxism.
I think we're starting to make a really big impact. Get noticed. We're doing it. Rock on. I'm gone.